Hello, thank you for joining me. So this week we are talking with about to Archangel Uriel, who's one of those archangels we don't usually talk about. One of those archangels we don't usually hear too much about. So you may not be familiar with him. According to Doreen Virtue, in her big book, Archangels and Ascended Masters. Okay, not really a big book, but it's really the authoritative tome on Archangels and Ascended Masters. So, according to Doreen Virtue, Archangel Uriel's name means God is light, God's light, or fire of God, because he illuminates situations and gives prophetic information and warnings. For example, Uriel warned Noah of the impending flood, helped the prophet Ezra to interpret medical or mystical predictions about the forthcoming Messiah, and delivered the Kabbalah to humankind. Uriel has also been credited with bringing the knowledge and practice of alchemy, the ability to turn base metal into precious metal, as well as the ability to manifest from thin air to humankind. He's regarded as one of the wisest archangels. He's much like an old sage that you can call on for intellectual stuff, practical solutions, this type of thing, creative insight. So, because of perhaps his connection to Noah, as well as his affinity with the weather elements of thunder and lightning, Uriel is considered to be an archangel who helps us with earthquakes, floods, fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, natural disaster, and earth changes, such as climate change. So we can call upon Archangel Uriel to avert these disasters or to even heal and recover after them. So Uriel helps us with alchemy, divine magic, earth changes, problem solving, spiritual understanding, studies, tests, and students, and weather and writing. So he's got so many things that he does. We can call on Uriel for so many things in our lives. It's a good idea to call on him regularly. I see him as this supreme intellectual, someone who's just calmly knows everything we need to know, can calmly tell us, and who's just really on top of this type of stuff. So he's a good one to have in your corner. I would suggest Googling Archangel Uriel, finding an image of him out there that you like, printing it off, and keeping it with you. He's a good one if you are a student and needing to remember things for a test, or if you're just needing to remember things that you learned for your job or for an event. He's really good at that type of thing. But what he wanted to talk about today is division. And this is not long division, although I look at my kids' homework sometimes and I think, I really need some help with this because this is not how I learned it. He's wanting to talk about division this week because today is November 5th, and November 3rd, we had a very divisive election that we're still waiting to hear the results from. 2 days later, I feel like it's going to be a while yet before we hear anything. But, I was just reflecting on how our country got so divided yesterday when I was brushing my teeth in the morning. And I just heard in my body that this division is an outward reflection of what's going on within each and every one of us, that we are all divided inside. And when I asked and wanted to know where that message came from, Archangel Uriel's name came forward to me. So his message is that, we have things in our lives, in our hearts, in our minds, in our souls, where we're divided among ourselves. So messages like simple things such as, I would really like to make a good living. I would like to earn a lot of money. But then growing up with messages such as money doesn't grow on trees, money is the root of all evil. And that's just kind of a simple thing that we can all look at. this morning I was doing a Facebook Live with cards. I do that every Monday through Friday, and sometime in the day, typically in the morning, where the Civil War card came up, and trust and faith came up. And the message came up that religion, for example, is another big one that we tend to be divided about within ourselves. It's like growing up with a religious tradition and knowing that it was not fitting our needs and we didn't really adhere to the teachings that we were being taught, forced in some ways. That was not really resonating with us. But when we get older, turning to religion and trying to get past the programming, that division, knowing that there's something bigger, something outside of us, something beyond us, but then feeling that division. So these are the type of things that Uriel is wanting to bring to our attention. It seems that our world is so divided. Our country is so divided. I mean, seriously, we're having a hard time choosing between the two presidential candidates? Doesn't really make sense. How did our country get so misguided and so divided? It's because it's just showing us where we're divided in ourselves. How there are people who say, I really wish there were no racism. I don't feel racist myself. But then embracing an ideology that calls out different races and is all, for all intents and purposes, very negative toward different races. So there's that division within so many people. It's like decrying sexism, but embracing somebody who embraces sexism. It's like having these dichotomies within us and having our world be an outward reflection of that. And that is division. But it starts within. It's an inside job. And so this morning I drew the Civil War card, and in the Civil War there were families that were divided. So one brother would be on one side, and the other brother would be on the other side. That's kind of what we're seeing now. So families being divided, ideology being divided. So a lot of divisiveness, a lot of division, a lot of divisiveness coming from within. So Uriel would challenge you to study a bit more about ideology. He would encourage you to study more about the Civil War, for example. Rhetoric, especially political rhetoric, would have you study that and see how words and ideologies are put out there to create division, and see where division lives within yourself. He's showing me this like a very graphic looking physical heart. He's saying that look inside your heart to where your own division is. He says that's the wisest thing you can do. We talked about Archangel Uriel being an archangel over wisdom and knowledge. He says that's the wisest thing you can do is look within your own heart to find out where you're divided. All right, so that's the message for this week. I think it's a really good one. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't yet, please hit the subscription button or the little bell thing, and you'll be subscribed, and you'll get notifications of when we post new videos. Radiate Wellness Podcast, Planet Watch, 52 Weeks of Angel Connection. If you're really, really interested in what this channel has to offer, then you might go to Radiate You on Facebook. Radiate You 24/7 support. It's a Facebook group. And when you click join, you'll be directed to subscribe. So this is an actual subscription-based Facebook group, and there's tons of great content on that. Plus, polls where you can vote on who I bring out each week on 52 Weeks of Angel Connection. We've only got a couple more months of this, so we still have a lot to get to in terms of archangels. Not too many in terms of archangels, but a few more ascended masters. In fact, quite a few more ascended masters. If you'd like to have a say in that, then please do subscribe. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.